Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Lola Speaks podcast. I know it's been a while, but I've been trying to piece this episode together because it's so near and so dear to my heart. So if this is your first time here, welcome. And if you've been rocking with me for a while, welcome back. How y'all been? What y'all doing? What has life been like over the past couple weeks? Put it in the comments. Let me know. Today's conversation is a little different for me. It's very personal, and I try not to get too personal, but sometimes you have to have these conversations with yourself, and sometimes you have to kind of like open the doors to conversations that people aren't ready to have. But I'm going to try to get through this without getting too emotional, but I can't make any promises. I really can't because we're talking about our children today. We're talking about fathers. We're talking about absence. We're talking about mothers. We're talking about childhood wounds. And we're talking about what happens when grown people make decisions that children eventually have to heal from. And before anybody gets all defensive, I want to make something very clear. This is not a father bashing episode. There are incredible fathers in this world. There are fathers fighting every single day to be in their children's lives. There are fathers who have been kept away from their children. There are fathers who are doing everything that they can to show up. And we're going to talk about that too. But we're also going to have an uncomfortable conversation about the fathers who simply choose not to, because those children have a story too. And sometimes we're so busy discussing what happened between the adults that nobody stops and asks, what did it do to the child? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. But first, I want to dedicate this episode to a very special somebody, and that somebody is my son. Thank you for giving me one of the greatest titles I've ever had, the privilege of being your mother, your mommy, your mom, your twin. Thank you. 19 years ago, I became somebody's mother. And to this day, I can still remember holding my little boy for the first time, all 4 pounds and 9 ounces of him. Looking at him, studying his little face, and realizing, like, oh my God, I'm responsible for a whole human being. And I vividly remember falling in love before I even knew his gender. The moment I found out that I was pregnant with this child, I was head over heels for him. And I silently made promises to him, promises he couldn't even understand, that I would love him, that I would protect him, that I would guide him, that I would do everything within my power to prepare him for this world. And over the last 19 years, I've watched him grow from this little boy into a young man. I've celebrated birthdays, I've wiped tears, I've sat through school events, I've stayed up on nights worrying, I've prayed over his future more times than I could ever count. And God is so amazing. I've celebrated accomplishments, and we've got plenty more to go. I've corrected mistakes. We've had some good days, we've had hard days. We probably got in on each other's nerves plenty of days for sure. But that's motherhood. That's what motherhood is. But through all of it, I was there. And now, looking at this young man standing in front of me, I'm incredibly proud. But if I'm being transparent, his 19th birthday has also made me reflect, because birthdays have a funny way of reminding you how quickly time moves. One minute they're babies, then you blink, they're walking, you blink again, they're starting school, middle school, high school, graduation, and somehow 19 years have passed. Children grow whether we're ready or in every year that passes is a year we don't get back. And that's what has been sitting on my heart, because every child deserves parents who choose them, not just on the day that they're born, but every single day after that. And that's why we're having this conversation. I've spent a lot of time trying to understand something, and I'll be transparent with y'all. I still don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. I don't understand how a parent can choose to not be involved in their child's life. And I'm specifically talking about fathers today because that's the experience that brought me to this conversation. I have tried to look at it from different perspectives. I've tried to understand childhood trauma. I've tried to understand broken relationships. I've tried to understand resentment, immaturity, even fear. I've tried to understand men who never had an example of fatherhood themselves, right? And I have compassion for all of those things, but when I bring it back to the child, I still struggle because the child didn't ask for any of it. Children don't understand adult problems. They don't know what happened in your relationship. They don't know about arguments, who cheated, who hurt who, finances, pride. They don't understand any of those things. None of that. They don't understand why two adults can't stand each other anymore. They don't understand any of that. All they understand is daddy isn't here. And when children don't have an explanation, sometimes they create one. Maybe it's me. Maybe my dad doesn't like me. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe if I did this differently, maybe if I played a sport, maybe if I got better grades, maybe if I made him proud, maybe, all the maybes that go through these children's heads, and it breaks my heart because now this child is trying to fix something that they never broke. So fathers, can I talk to y'all for a minute? And I'm not talking to you from a place of hatred. I'm not even talking to you from a place of judgment. I'm asking you to hear this from the child's perspective because you may have had your reasons for leaving. Maybe you weren't ready. Maybe you and the mother couldn't get along. Maybe life became overwhelming. Maybe you were struggling mentally. Maybe you were struggling financially. Maybe you felt like you couldn't be the father you thought you needed to be. Maybe, maybe you were immature. Maybe you were selfish. Maybe you were hurt. Maybe you were scared. I don't know your story, but your child doesn't experience your reason. They experience your absence. They experienced the birthday you didn't call, the Christmas you didn't come, the school event where they looked into the crowd, the promises of I'll get you next weekend, and then the weekend came and you didn't. They experienced watching other children with fathers. They experienced Father's Day at school. They experienced graduation, prom, their first heartbreak, their first accomplishment, their first big mistake. All these moments where they should be able to say, let me call my dad. And they can't. Or worse, they don't even think to call anymore. And that's the part I don't think people understand. Eventually, children stop asking. But please don't mistake their silence for the absence no longer hurting. Sometimes they stopped asking because asking became too painful. I really want somebody to hear me because I've heard men say, I didn't have a father growing up, so I don't really know how to be one. And I can understand that. I can. But you can't imitate something you never saw. Maybe nobody taught you how to communicate with your child. Maybe nobody hugged you. Maybe nobody told you they were proud of you. Maybe nobody came to your games. Maybe nobody showed up how a man can be gentle and still be strong. That hurt is real. But here's where I struggle. You know what that absence felt like? You know what it felt like to wonder? You know what it felt like watching other kids with their fathers? You know what Father's Day felt like? You know what it felt like wishing somebody would show up. So why would you knowingly hand that pain to your child? At some point, we have to stop saying, this is how I was raised. Okay. That does not mean this is how your child has to be raised too. At what generation do we decide enough is enough? Somebody has to break the cycle. And maybe you weren't shown how to be a father. Okay, learn. Ask questions, get therapy if you need to. Talk to men who are good fathers. Read, listen, grow, apologize, try for God's sakes. Because your child doesn't need you to know everything. They need you to care enough to learn. Your childhood can explain some things, but it cannot become permission to create the very pain you once prayed somebody would rescue you from. And fathers, please hear me on this too. Your child doesn't need you to be rich. They don't need designer clothes every weekend. They don't need the biggest Christmas gift. They don't need you pulling up in the nicest car. They need you. Sometimes being a father is sitting on the couch watching cartoons, is calling and asking how was school. It's remembering the name of their best friend and knowing what they're afraid of, knowing what their favorite food is. It's showing up to something that feels small to you but means everything to them. It's saying I'm proud of you, saying I love you, I messed up, I'm sorry, I'm here. Children remember presence, and sometimes the smallest moments become their biggest memories. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to participate because that's all they're asking for. Presence, things that they can create memories from, good memories. Because I know for sure when I show up, they remember. He remembers when I show up. It's important. And ladies, don't think that you are exempt from this conversation either, because we have to have our conversation too. There are fathers who aren't involved because they choose not to be. And then there are fathers who are fighting like hell to be fathers. And somebody is making it almost impossible. And I need to make a distinction here. I'm not talking about protecting your child from abuse. I'm talking about something completely different. I'm talking about when a relationship between two adults ends and somebody decides, if you don't want me, you don't get access to your child either. That's wrong. Your child is not revenge. Your child is not leverage. Your child is not a bargaining chip. Your child is not a weapon. Your child should not have to pay for the emotional bill of a relationship that they weren't a part of. You can be angry at that man. You can be disappointed. You can decide you never want another romantic relationship with him. You don't have to like him. But if he's safe, loving father who genuinely wants to participate in his child's life, that relationship belongs to your child. And sometimes loving our children means putting our own feelings aside. Because co-parenting isn't about who won the breakup. It's about raising a healthy human being. And please be careful about what you say around your child. Don't make them responsible for choosing sides. Don't make them feel guilty for loving their father. Don't interrogate them when they come home. Don't use them as messengers. Adult problems belong to adults. Children deserve the freedom to simply be children, because eventually children grow up and they start putting pieces together. They start asking questions. They start looking back at their childhood through adult eyes. And sometimes they realize that wasn't my fault. I wasn't difficult to love. I wasn't asking for too much. I was a child. And that's when another kind of healing begins, because now they're trying to separate who they actually are from what somebody else's absence made them believe about themselves. And that's why this matters so much. We aren't always raising children, we're raising future adults, future husbands, future wives, future mothers, future fathers. And the things they experience in childhood can follow them into relationships they haven't even had yet. The little boy who never felt chosen may grow into a man terrified of abandonment. That little girl who constantly waited for daddy may grow into a woman constantly trying to prove that she's worth staying for. And yes, people can heal, absolutely. But imagine how much healing we could prevent from them needing if we simply just showed up. Just imagine. If you're listening to me right now, right? And this isn't your story as a parent, but it's your story as a child. Like, this is how you grew up. This is how you grew up without your dad. Like, maybe you're 19, maybe you're 29, maybe you're 49, 50, 60, however old you are. And there's still a part of you that wonders, why didn't my dad choose me? I need you to understand something. Someone else's inability to show up for you is not evidence that you were difficult to love. You were a child. You weren't supposed to earn your father's presence. You weren't supposed to perform for it. You weren't supposed to be perfect enough for it. You weren't supposed to chase it. You deserved love because you simply existed, period. And maybe your father had wounds. Maybe he didn't know how. Maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe he didn't have an example. Maybe he made choices you'll never understand. You can have compassion for his story without making his choices your burden. You are allowed to grieve what you didn't receive. You are allowed to build a beautiful life anyway. I promise you are. So now, here I am, 19 years later, looking at my son, and I'm proud, so proud. And there are things about these 19 years that have been beautiful. There are things that have been hard. There are things I wish I could have protected him from. There are things I couldn't fix. And that's hard as a mother, because your child hurts, you want to fix it. You want to explain it. You want to make it make sense. And sometimes you just simply can't. Sometimes all you can do is love them through the questions and remind them that another person's choices don't determine who they are. So, son, if you ever hear this episode, I hope you know how proud I am of you. I hope you know how deeply you are loved. I hope you know that you never had to earn that love. And I hope as you continue becoming the man you were meant to be, you take the lessons from your childhood, the beautiful ones and the painful ones, and you decide what gets carried forward. You get to decide the kind of man you become. You get to decide what kind of father you become one day. And if that's what life has for you, you get to decide what cycles stop with you. And baby, I pray you choose love every single time. Every single time. If you're a father listening and you know your child is somewhere wondering about you, please don't wait. Don't wait until another birthday passes. Don't let birthdays become graduations. Don't let graduations become weddings. Don't let weddings become grandchildren you've never met. You cannot go back and change the years you've missed. But if it's safe and appropriate, you can take responsibility for what happened and you can decide what you do with the years still in front of you. Pick up the phone, write the letter, have the conversation, apologize without excuses, and understand that your child may not immediately be ready to receive you, and they are allowed to have feelings about your absence. Showing up now doesn't erase what happened then. Accountability can be the beginning of something different. And mothers, when a good, safe father wants to love his child, let him. We don't have to be together to give our children the opportunity to be loved by both of us. And to every son or daughter listening, please hear me one more time. You were never responsible for making a grown person choose you. You were worthy when you were 5. You were worthy when you were 15, and you're worthy now. Their absence is part of your story. It doesn't have to become your identity. And to my son, happy 19th birthday. Thank you for 19 years of teaching me what unconditional love really looks like. Being your mother has stretched me, challenged me, humbled me, scared me, made me laugh, made me cry, and given me a love I couldn't have understood until I became your mom. I love you. I'm proud of you. And wherever life takes you, always remember you are chosen. This has been another episode of Lola Speaks. So until next time, love your babies. Show up for them. Heal what needs healing. Break what needs breaking. And don't hand your children wounds simply because somebody handed them to you. I'll talk to y'all next time. I love y'all to life. Bye.